Hi there, greetings and salutations. Derek, what percent of the people do you think hearing my voice right now are seeing the accompanying video to it as opposed to simply listening on a podcast form?
We have a really large podcast audience.
I know.
In fact,
which is much appreciated.
A fun fact about this show, if you want to impress your friends and let people know this.
Okay. There's nothing about this show that's going to impress your friends other than your cute sweatshirt.
We still track. We have a spreadsheet, and we track like the views on all the platforms and all of that, you know, TV and digital and podcast. And still to this day, and it's never changed, the number one way that Query and Schultz is consumed by our fan base is via audio. The podcast.
Derek, we don't have a fan base. We have a bunch of friends that listen to this show.
Fan base, following,
friends,
you know, whatever else. Friends, yes.
The thing that
Any
makes
F word.
I think the thing that makes our show appealing to people is, I would like to think at least, that most people that listen to it are like, yeah, my buddies Jake and Derek.
Yeah,
because we've gotten to know most of them, right?
Or my buddy Derek. I think would be more of the experience, the more common experience that you would see. But we are friends with a chunk of our fan base, our fans. I love my fans.
Derek, I know more of the people that listen to this show than you do.
Well, yeah. I mean, what was the graduating class in North Central in 91? It was like 900 people, right?
I was 482. My rank was 482.
So you probably do know that many.
By the way, I like your sweatshirt.
Yeah, thank you. Market Square Arena, this is a good one from our buddies Brian and Alex at the shop.
I absolutely loved, like, Market Square Arena. I'm telling you, I can recall. Do you remember what was your Market Square as a kid? Madison Square Garden?
Well, I guess, yeah. What I mean, we would go to the Hartford Civic Center sometimes for events, and that was a smaller scale.
I mean, I think the first event that I went to in Market Square Arena would have been the circus. But, I mean, Pacer games, most of which were a circus in the early years anyway, concerts, the whole, you name it. My high school graduation, Market Square Arena.
Could you possibly calculate how many times you actually were inside of MSA for an event?
Yeah, no way. Yeah. I mean, hundreds. I mean, one would
what,
assume, right?
Is it right to say, would you have been there 20 times a year, more?
That's probably that's a good question.
15 to 20?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking of old
everything that took place in Indianapolis was at Market Square Arena, right?
Of course.
Anything that was
because a large chunk of that when you were a kid was before the dome had even been built, right?
Correct. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Every concert, Pacer game, high school graduations. I mean, just on and on and on, right? Pan Am games, a ton of stuff. A lot to talk about today, and that begins with this. Pretty simply. I mean, obviously, it is the big storyline in Indianapolis. There are two involving the Indianapolis Colts. The first is the fact that Jonathan Taylor, we know now, will get a 3-year extension with the Colts for $42 million. Of course, he has 1 year left on his existing contract. Then the other side of it, you have the Taylor news that happened on Saturday. Then on Sunday, the news that Anthony Richardson, the injury, the sprain to the right shoulder, question mark still on how long he will be out. I think it's safe to say at least up to or around, and one would think you kind of buy in an extra week if you're the Colts, around the weekend of the bye. So 4, 5, 6 weeks, somewhere in there, Derek, but a lot to talk about when it comes to the Colts, who got a big win over the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, it's funny that the Taylor news, the last time that we talked, Taylor hadn't even spoken to the media yet. So in the span of last week's show to this week's show, he spoke to the media. We all thought that he didn't want to be here. And then Saturday, the news breaks that he wants to be here, and then he actually plays in the game. So it feels like a whole a month's worth, if you will, of action just happened with Jonathan Taylor. The key story is Richardson, and it really casts a dark cloud over everything else. We should be sounding the trumpets and celebrating a 3-2 start for the Colts, 2 division wins, ending the Tennessee losing skid the way that they did, and going into a critical game against Jacksonville, who you've already dropped a game to, and trying to end another, right? Get off the schneid for another losing streak. They're long, 0-8, I think, in their last 8 trips to Jacksonville. But it's just all about the franchise quarterback. And there is precedent for this injury if it is a grade 3 AC joint sprain. And I don't know if we'll ever get the exact details on what it is. Matt Stafford went through it. But
and how long did he miss?
I don't know how long he missed from that specific injury. He missed a ton of games his first 2 years. People don't remember because you think of Matt Stafford like you thought of Phillip Rivers, right? Where he's always out there. The first 2 years, Matt Stafford played 13 games in his first 2 years. And then for the next 8 years, he didn't miss a start.
Do you want to know what I think, Derek? I mentioned this yesterday on the radio. You know what I think is going to be the long-form implication of this injury?
What's that?
I don't think Anthony Richardson now has suffered a concussion.
Mm-hmm. He tweaked his knee, I think.
The concussion was on the road, though, right? Or was that
That was
at home?
Houston.
Okay.
That was the Houston game. Yep.
So he has suffered a concussion. He's had a couple of injuries, right? We've seen increasing number of people going into the concussion protocol. I think some of that may be NFL advanced safety and precaution more than anything else. And I'm not taking away from that. If Anthony Richardson continues to get dinged up, the NFL Players Association has been adamant that they want every team in the league to have natural grass surface in their stadiums, and the Indianapolis Colts have been adamant that that's not possible at Lucas Oil Stadium. The more Anthony Richardson, the franchise quarterback, gets dinged up, the more likely it is that's going to push towards a grass surface that is temporarily on each Sunday put inside Lucas Oil. That's my prediction.
Yeah, and apparently
and I got news for you. The Colts ain't paying for that.
It costs $12 million. That's the number that I saw to do that. Every time that you do it, it costs $12 million. I think I have that right. Did you see that number?
We got $1 billion for a soccer stadium, Derek. What the hell? Let's
Did you see that number? I thought every time you do that, it costs $12 million. Like, you can't just take Lucas Oil Stadium and just be like, hey, let's throw down some grass seed and then some Scott's turf builder, and then
Arizona does
it.
I mean, you know what I mean? Basically, it sounds ridiculous, but essentially it just becomes a tray, right? That you slide out and then you slide it in.
It's a little bit frustrating, Jake. I know that people don't want to take swipes at Indy and the organizers because we do such a good job with facilities and hosting events, but there are several things with Lucas Oil Stadium that have aged poorly.
Who was saying that 10 years ago?
The retractable roof. Which, let's face it, on Sunday, you open that retractable roof just because you were like, ooh, boy, we might not have a chance to open this again. So it's 51 and drizzling. Let's open up the retractable roof. I mean, it was ridiculous that the roof was open on Sunday, right? Almost as ridiculous as that it was closed. And then this fact that you don't have a drainage system in there and you can't, if you wanted to, put in a permanent grass field. I mean, it's just... things about that stadium have lacked foresight when it feels like everything that Indy's ever done hasn't. Has had foresight front of mind. I mean, look at Banker's Life. God, I still call it that. Gamebridge. It's a beautiful facility. Even with the facelifts and all of that.
Gamebridge was built,
the core of it is
Gamebridge
amazing.
was built in order, when they built Gamebridge, they built it with the vision of let's make this so that we can still put on or take away Lego pieces.
Yeah.
And Lucas Oil, I don't know that they did that. I understand. I mean, I get it.
I just think we've complained about the stadium before on here. It's not that it's a bad stadium. It's just a stadium.
Okay, we'll get to the game. I promise is my only thing I'll say about Lucas Oil Stadium. And I've said it 1,000 times, but I'm going to say it 1,001. During the Rams game, my friend Andre Murray, diehard Rams fan, I'm up in the press box, and he's like, hey, come down and see me at halftime. Or I think I said to him, I'll come down and see you at halftime. He's like, okay, I'm in the 400 level in the south end zone. I went down the press box, which is on the west side of the stadium, to the 400 level, and then I just had a quarter turn to go. You can't go more than 200 feet.
Yeah, you can't go over here. Yeah.
You walk, and then you got to go down an escalator. Then you go 50 feet, then you go back up an escalator. Then you go around a bar area, and then you go down, up, over. I mean, it is if there is ever a disaster and I'm not saying this flippantly, it is a concern of mine. If there is ever something that happens inside of Lucas Oil Stadium while people are in there, I don't know how people get out.
Well, you can use the one elevator shaft.
Exactly. I mean,
west side of the stadium. You guys know if you've ever sat in the suite. I mean, this is a
first world problem.
First world problem for sure. But if you've ever sat in the suites before, you know how long it takes because there are literally 2 elevator cars that go up there. I mean, it's ridiculous. Again, the planning and the foresight, but this is about Richardson and the Colts. Let's not make it too much about the stadium.
You're right.
Jake, I guess when we come on here, you always want to feel like you have the answers, right? Like I'm radio host Jake Query, or I'm, Derek Schultz, beloved local celebrity and trusted expert. I don't know what my exact title would be. It'd probably be some combination of those two things.
Okay.
I have the answers, right? People are tuning in for the answers. I don't have an answer for Anthony Richardson and the injury stuff. I don't. People can sit here and say, well, you should only do 4 design runs instead of 8. Okay? All it takes is one hit. He is going to get hit. There's nothing that you can do to protect him completely.
It's not
from
a contact
hit.
Sport. It's a collision sport.
Yeah,
it's the greatest quote from Bill Pullman.
I don't know what you're supposed to do with it. And we also want to say, oh, it's the turf. It's Richardson. It's Steichen's play calling. Sometimes things that happen in sports don't have an explanation. Sometimes it's just bad luck. Sometimes it's just a fluke. Not everything is momentum and grittiness and clutch and whatever else. Sometimes it's just luck. Sports are random and stupid. And sometimes Anthony Richardson has random and stupid injuries. It sucks, but it's reality.
Derek, the thing that no one knows the answer to what I'm about to say, okay? The thing that we have yet to learn, are these fluke patterns of terrible luck, or is Anthony Richardson's body and or combination of the way that he puts his body in positions destined or prone towards repeated injuries? We don't know the answer to that. It doesn't really matter, actually. Bob Sanders was hurt the majority of his career as a Colt. Was that because of bad luck, or was that because his body was, the chemistry and composition of his body was fragile? Who knows? It's irrelevant. Bottom line is his career's over, and he was on the sidelines for a lot of it, right?
Yeah. Did Jonathan Bender get hurt more because as a kid in Mississippi, he and the neighborhood kids would jump off roofs for fun? Did that do something to his knees that made him more prone to injury? Remember when he told us that story?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea. He seems to think so, but I have no idea if that's the case. Every body is different. I mean, look at the two bodies on this show. You have, kind of a nice defined physique on this side, and then you have a little bit more of an older, the metabolism has slowed down. There's more, it's winter time, so you see a little bit more weight coming in for the winter season. Every body is different, and Richardson's body is just different from others.
I'm in the second half century of my life.
Mm-hmm. We can tell.
And I take enough medication each morning to probably make an elephant comatose. I think all things considered, Derek, I'm pretty proud of the sexiness that I carry.
I think there's kind of like a wise old sage, like a nice owl kind of vibe.
You like
that
owls,
you
right?
have going. I hate them. So this is why it actually fits really well. But yeah, I think you've got that vibe going on a little bit. Sometimes older women like that.
Okay. I do wish I could lose a little weight, but it's tough.
You're fine. You always ask me, oh, do I look good?
Well, you just went on for 5 minutes about how old and fat I look. Thanks.
Best friends rag on each other all the time.
Right.
Just like you rag on me and I rag on you. Because we're best friends.
When I worked in St. Louis and covered the Cardinals, Mark McGwire had a patellar tendonitis issue. And I remember at that time, and of course I think that was greatly increased or complicated by artificial enhancement.
Well, yeah.
And supplements.
That's definitely a sidebar to that whole thing.
But the narrative, I remember talking to a doctor about the patellar tendonitis and him saying the problem is that Mark McGwire's lower body didn't have the strength of support from the ligament and everything else of the upper body because of his massive strength up top. He had his legs were assuming that they were built for a guy that was 180 pounds, Ooh. And then suddenly it's 215 or whatever, In Richardson's case, Derek, none of that I'm saying. In Richardson's case, I'm not talking steroids at all. I'm just saying he is so physically gifted that you do wonder if the strength of his body is evenly proportionate, if that makes sense, or if there are certain parts of his body that don't have the strength to support the massive amount of mass on the rest of it. And therefore he is going to have, In this particular case, that's not the case, except for that when he got hit, was it his own body that caused the sprain, or was it the force of a defender on him and then the impact? Who knows? But these are injuries that he also had, as I understand it, throughout high school and college as well. So the reality is this, and that is that you're missing critical time. I don't know that for this year. I know there are people that are like, oh man, now that you have Richardson and then Taylor behind him, what could be in terms of the dynamic offense? I don't disagree with that, but I don't know that those things are what you want to see for this year.
Yeah.
You just want this year to be the building block towards how good they can be in 24, 25, and 26.
Sure, yeah. Anything that happens this year, wins-wise, I think is gravy.
Right.
And I still feel that way. I think it's great that the Colts are contending for the division and contending for the playoffs, but if they go 7-10, will I be devastated? No, because I want to see individual growth. I wanted to see the offensive line get back to normal, and it's gotten back to normal so far. I wanted to see some flashes from Anthony Richardson. We've seen more than flashes. I wanted to see some growth from some defensive players like Dio and Kwity Paye when he's been healthy, and it looks like that's been pretty good so far. So the early returns have been good, even throwing out the 3-2 record. It just sucks, Jake, because I think there's this mentality here in Indianapolis that, and this is for the Pacers too, we just can't have nice things.
Right.
Whenever something good is happening to the Colts or Pacers, seemingly something bad immediately follows. It's not quite to the level. I don't think the fan base is jaded like Purdue or the Cincinnati Reds fans are jaded. Like those fans straight up like don't sleep at night waiting for the piano to fall on their bed and crush their heads. Like that's how those two fan bases are. Like I don't think the Colts and Pacers are like that.
I've never heard of that though, by the way.
The piano on the wire?
Why? But I've never heard of that actually happening to someone.
It probably did in like 18-aught something, and that's why it's like
No, it's probably from like Wile E. Coyote or something, right?
No,
there's no way that there's no way.
Look at this. Hold on.
There's no way that like in Germany in
of
1809
on wire.
Who would have a piano on a wire and then sleep underneath it?
Friedrich Wildschmidt in 1834.
No.
No, I actually just made that up.
Gee, what a
piano
shock.
in wire origin. Oh, now it's saying how pianos are made. No.
Yeah.
Origin of the piano.
I've never heard that saying.
On a wire. Saying.
Okay.
How does being hanged with piano wire? Oh my God! Like I don't want that. Okay. Yes. See, 26 Americans have died. That's exactly what it references.
That is a totally made up stat.
And even more in Germany.
What possible
with Heinrich
Wilhelm or whatever
his name
piano accident? Okay, somebody got hit by a Baldwin truck that was delivering a piano. Sure. Okay. Great. Yeah. Right?
Piano is hanging over your head, saying. Having it over your head, the dangling piano.
It's a saying that you made up.
Sean Main's talking about living a life where there's no piano hanging by a rope. No, that's I specifically heard wire when I used to hear this.
Did you have you ever done acid?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I do. Because I think we're having a flashback right here. I'm like, what is going on? Or did you watch Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner a lot as a kid?
No,
While on acid, maybe?
Have you guys heard that saying? I always ask Rake because, see, Rake has heard that saying. There's a piano hanging over your head and you're walking down the sidewalk and the wire snaps and the piano falls and crushes you. It's like Cinderella. The pumpkin turns into a carrot, or the carriage turns back into a pumpkin. Like, at least we can have a concrete example of that, though, because people have seen Cinderella. I have no idea where the piano wire saying comes from, but it exists.
Jonathan Taylor has been extended by the Colts a 3-year deal for $42 million, mostly, I think, front-loaded, which kind of gives them some flexibility in 4 years from now towards the end of it. Twofold, really. Number one, if for some reason Taylor, like we have seen with a lot of running backs, falls off a cliff, he's a young guy. He's been a great player, so who knows if that happens. But it also gives them flexibility to two things here, Derek, that I believe. Number one, you have given yourself kind of an out to get out of that contract in the later years of it if you need money to free up to sign Anthony Richardson when Anthony Richardson's deal is up. And then the other thing that comes into play that I thought about yesterday, I think this is probably a very small factor, but a factor nonetheless. By doing this, the Colts avoid using the franchise tag on him.
Yeah.
Now,
it's a great point.
They Taylor ended up getting what he wanted, $14 million a year. I mean, that's basically what he wanted. You know, that was the ballpark, supposedly what he was asking for.
I think he wanted security. I think that's what he won with. He wanted a deal so if he got injured, he would have security.
The most critical, in my opinion, it's all about Anthony Richardson and his development and getting him comfortable. Jonathan Taylor is a part of that. I think they waited with Taylor because they wanted to make sure that they had their quarterback. And then they saw, okay, this is a guy that we need to put pieces around. So now let's go and get Taylor taken care of. And they did that. I think they also realized, okay, we do have the flexibility here financially. Let's get this done. So they get that done. The Jonathan Taylor saga is over with. Great. What they did, Derek, I think it's a minor factor, but I think it factored. Michael Pittman Jr. is a critical piece towards Anthony Richardson's development, particularly if Alec Pierce continues to take a while to get going here. Josh Downs looks like he's going to be a player.
Yeah.
But you still need a primary receiver for Anthony Richardson. Michael Pittman Jr. is probably worth more to the Colts than he is on the open market. And I think the Colts know that, and I think Pittman knows that. So Pittman is going to, I think he has the potential and the leverage to play hardball a little bit. Hey, look, my contract's coming up. Mike Williams is making 32 for the Chargers. You know, Keenan Allen's making 33. Cooper Kupp's making 29. I want 30. Now, I'm not saying Pittman is worth $30 million per year, but the receiver market says that upper-end receivers are worth $30 million a year, and he might not be an open or a top-level receiver in the NFL standards, but he's the top-level receiver by the Colts standards. And if Alec Pierce doesn't show growth, then he becomes even that much more important. So the Colts, if they were to tag Michael Pittman Jr., would have to pay somewhere around $24 to $25 million. They could save themselves potentially $5 to $7 million per year by tagging him as opposed to getting into a high-stakes negotiation with him. I think a factor in getting Jonathan Taylor done and accelerating that was having the tag available if you need it to hold on to Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, it's a great point because I don't think Pittman, while he's very productive and a very good player who I want the Colts to retain, I don't think anybody thinks he's a top 10 receiver, but you're going to have to pay him like one.
Correct.
In fact, you're going to have to pay him like a top 5 receiver. At least the franchise tag, gives you an out after you don't have to commit to anything long-term. It's not a 4-year, 5-year deal or that kind of commitment. So I think it's an excellent point. I heard you bring it up on the radio show, I think, yesterday. We're taping this right now on Tuesday, so that would have been on Monday's show. With Taylor, I'm not going to do this whole I'm so sorry, mea culpa. The Colts didn't do anything. At the end of the day, the Colts didn't do anything that they didn't want to do. If they did do something that they didn't want to do, they moved up their timeline a little bit for Taylor. I believe they were always planning to extend him. I just think that it was going to happen later on. But the problem is that intention is not action, right? If Taylor came back and got hurt this year, then maybe they changed their mind on that. I think what they were planning, though, was to extend Jonathan Taylor because that's what they've done with every single star player that they've had. They've extended them. So there was no reason for me to believe that they weren't going to do that with Taylor. But kudos to Taylor because I thought he was playing a losing hand, but clearly he got them to move up their timeline. So that's a win for him, undoubtedly. It's a massive win.
Derek, when the Pacers signed Bruce Brown in the offseason this year, Chad Buchanan has said on record, we probably did overpay a little bit for him, but what he brings to the table is exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
So they probably paid more than market value for him, but they did so because they wanted to secure him because he has greater value to the Pacers than he does perhaps elsewhere. That's what Pittman Jr. is going to be for the Colts in the NFL. His value to Indianapolis is going to be more than what it is to Cincinnati or Arizona or Atlanta or Jacksonville. So they're going to have to pay, and if it gets ugly, they have the tag.
It's basically, for Taylor, it's basically a 2-year, $20 million deal for the most part. That's the guaranteed money, and they can get out of it. The guarantees are front-loaded.
Right.
And so you're paying Taylor when he's 25 and 26. For both sides, it's a great deal because if you're Taylor, you're thinking, well, I can hit the open market again at 27, 28 years old. And if you're the Colts, you're thinking, we're still paying him for his prime years
by the
because
way,
27, 28 is when you start doing this.
On a side note, what the hell has happened to Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott? Either one.
Yeah, it's the same thing that's happened to what happened to Sean Alexander, right? I mean, it's the same thing that's happened to every guy. Jamal Charles. I mean, like, you go down the list. I mean, look at your fantasy drafts of the last 10 years, and you start thinking of those names, and you're like, oh, yeah, that guy. What? These guys have like a 2 or 3 year window.
It is crazy.
And then that's it. It's nuts. But good for Taylor. And what sucked about the whole conversation, Jake, is that I hated kind of siding with the team. Generally, I'm a player.
But, Derek, this was one
proponent.
situation where it was literally dead even.
Trying to
determine which one you agree with, it was dead even.
What bothered me about the conversation was that nationally, they had no idea what they were talking about. The people nationally, even smart people nationally, I'm not just talking about like Mike Florio and blowhards like that. I'm talking like smart people nationally, had no handle on this situation at all. And they were just like making up stuff. Why are the Colts asking for Waddle in a trade? It's because they don't want to trade Taylor, stupid. Like, how hard is it to understand their motives there and what they were trying to do? And that's what made me kind of side with the Colts. It's kind of like, you're allowed, you and your buddy are allowed to make fun of your other buddy, but if somebody else from outside your circle makes fun of your buddy, you're like, hey, shut up, dude. That's how I felt about this whole conversation.
See, that point is
like, you and I are allowed to make fun of Irsay. When other people start making fun of Irsay, I start puffing.
But you're not allowed to make
bit.
fun of me, though, is what I'm saying.
I make fun of you all the time behind your back.
But and that's
all the time.
There's an issue there.
Huh?
There's an issue there.
I'm sure you make fun of me.
Well, I'm allowed to.
You sent that text, remember? 5 or 6 years ago, you sent a text to Shannon because I brought James in to work one time.
I was in a bad mood, yep.
Ashley was sick. Mm-hmm. And I think the text message was, and it went to me, Derek's got his effing kid in here, and he won't shut up, or something like that. And then you tried before apologizing, you tried to come in my office, and you said, hey, give me your cell phone. And I said, under no circumstance will I ever give you my mobile device. And then I looked at the text. I had already seen the text message at that point.
No, you hadn't.
And you were mortified. And I said, you know what, buddy? Since we're best friends.
Yeah, okay. Actually, what you said was, do you think I've never sent a text about you to anybody? And I said, okay, fair enough.
And it was just like when you sent that text to my brother-in-law that was supposed to go to me. And you told me to do something to myself that is not possible for one to do to their self.
Oh, no, it is. You just can't do it twice.
Okay. Well, I was not about to do that profane thing that you were requesting that I do to myself.
Your brother-in-law erroneously. Do you remember back in the early days of Apple, if you sent a group text, and if you received a text that had more than one recipient, you didn't know there were other.
Yeah, I
didn't know there were other people tagged on.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
And so you had sent me a text, and I wrote back something to you in jest, but it went to also your brother-in-law. So he gets this text from me that has something in there, and he's like, wait, what? And he thought I was saying it to him. And then he wanted to come fight me, and that would have been a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, Dan was a varsity soccer player, and he's a scrapper. He's from Cromwell. Don't mess with Cromwell, Connecticut.
By the way, with the Jonathan Taylor news, that happens, of course, on Saturday. Then on Sunday, sitting up in the press box, 3rd and 1 for the Colts, handoff, opening, running back, wide open, and everybody in the press box is going, holy cow, what a story. First game, and there he go. Wait, hang on. That's not a 2-8, that's a 2-1.
Yeah.
Zach Moss continuing to, as the kids say, ball out. He's been a nice player for them. And, Kyle Canetta, Bullseye Event Group, sent me a text during the game and said, I was really upset when they traded Nyheim Hines, but this Zach Moss is a player. And I'm like, man, you're not kidding.
He's a grinder.
He is. He should be a fan favorite. Zach Moss should absolutely 120% be a fan favorite because he's like the Haywood Workman of the Colts. Not the bigger name at the position, but just lunch pail guy. I think he personally should be our Hoagie and Hops Hero of the Week.
And he is.
Zaire Franklin will be up there too. Thank you.
Good transition. Hoagies and Hops at 42nd and Boulevard.
I got it right here. This is
delicious Sandos.
Derek, you gave me like a slider.
Today we
How much
have
of the sandwich did
Keystone.
you keep for yourself?
Sorry, I did keep a little bit more. This is one of my favorites. This is the Keystone here. So London broil, like elevated roast beef, really delicious. Provolone, LT, horsey mayo, onion as well, the shaved onion.
LT?
I didn't put horsey mayo on yours because I know that you don't like mayo, but I could drink the horsey mayo from Hoagies and Hops.
I don't want to drink the horsey mayo. I want to drink the chili water beer.
Oh, yeah. I get it in my mustache. Oh, good. That is excellent. Really great roast beef sandwich. We've eaten through the menu on this cycle, so now we're cycling back through again. So we featured the Keystone a couple times, but very, very good. Very good as well. I'll admit, I'm actually not an IPA guy normally.
Crispy will love this beer, not only because it's crispy, but it's got
like
the dancing
IPA, hoppy, pale ale, whatever else. That's usually it's not pale ales and IPAs and stuff like that. It's like barbecue. I enjoy barbecue. I'll eat barbecue. It's not something that I like seek out. So if I'm ordering off a beer list, generally speaking, I'm not ordering a pale ale. But this is, and we've featured this one on the show before in the past too. This is the best pale ale I've ever had in my life.
This, by the way, is the Loose Juicy.
Double dry hopped, juicy pale ale. It hits all the right notes, and I think it's probably the best compliment that you can give a beer, that if you're not normally like a super hoppy person, that you would enjoy this, because I love it. It's really, really good. Loose Juicy. A special rec from Alexis. She's great. I saw her at Hoagies and Hops on Sunday. In fact, it was the Eagles watch party, so I saw Christina, her husband, on the Hoagies and Hops side, and then on the Chili Water side, I saw Alexis when I was picking up the Sando and the beer.
The Eagles watch the concert?
No, the actual Philadelphia Eagles game.
Do you
taking
like
on
the Eagles,
the Rams.
The band, they were at Gamebridge, and we think this might be our last time of saying last tour.
Every Eagles song for me is
Dentist Office. Yeah, I'm with you.
I appreciate them as musicians. It's just, I'm so bored. I'm so bored listening to the Eagles. It's very sleepy.
I would agree with that.
Now, to be fair, I'm only really familiar with their like mega hits, and they've got many of them. So I'm talking about like the half dozen songs that get consistent radio airplay. So, people that get mad about it are like, well, have you tried their deep cut, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, dude, I have no idea what you're even talking about. So maybe that's a great song. But the Eagles songs that are really popular to me, I'm really bored.
I like when you ask people, hey, sorry, I shouldn't talk my mouth full.
Yeah, it's gross.
Okay, really? I like when you ask people, what's the signature song of the Eagles? And they're like, oh, probably like Lonely Night in the Keys. And you're like, what? It's song 9 off their 4th album. You're like, do I need to tell you what
your
signature
favorite
song? Yeah,
I mean, not your favorite song. What their signature song is that most people connect with. Like for Hanson, there's so like Penny and Me, Weird. Like there's so many that kind of come to mind for great songs that are like quintessential songs. Like Taylor just really hit the vocals right here. Like this is the sound. This is Hanson's rock sound. Or Zach on the drums just killed it. But I'll admit, most people are most familiar with their breakthrough rock hit, which was Mbop. That would be their signature song because it was the first song. It opened up the floodgates to the pop culture phenomenon that became Hanson.
What's the name of the actor that played Ivan Drago?
Oh, I have no idea.
Rolf something?
Yeah. Okay.
He's the Hanson of actors. 2-month window, never heard from again.
Dolph Lundgren?
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah,
Okay. Dolph Lundgren is the Hanson of acting.
Hanson's still rocking around the world and selling out shows almost 30 years later.
I'm going to look right now and see where Hanson's next show is.
Playing a bunch of great shows.
Let's see.
Zach Moss, Hero of the Week.
Let's see. I'm going to guess it's my guess is going to be the Kearney, Nebraska County Fair.
I wanted to say this because Zach Moss out Derrick Henry in that game against the Titans, and you love to see it. We'll talk about Jacksonville coming up next and the curse there. Also a college football roundup and still plenty to get to. It's Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Derek, you can clear your calendar for May 16th.
All right.
So you can go to Cain's Ballroom in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Hanson
There's
Show.
a lot of history at Cain's. There have been
yeah.
many bands. Smokey Robinson, everybody's come through Cain's.
Right.
In Tulsa. A lot of music history in Tulsa. It's
After
a great
that, you can
culture.
stop by the Birsteg Pardon and well, this is funny. They're playing May 16th at Cain's Ballroom in Tulsa.
Why are you laughing? That place has got a lot of history.
Their next concert after May 16th is August 9th. They're in Stavanger, Norway at the Birkerstock. June and July they've taken off. they're taking a 2-month vacation with no shows.
I don't understand what's funny. Norwegian people are funny, or what's funny?
They got 4 stops in Norway. And that's the end of their tour. So their tour is a ballroom in Tulsa, and then
An historic ballroom in Tulsa, one of the most cherished music venues in the Southwest.
Oh, wait a minute. Then on October, they fire it back up for a show at Nottingham, United Kingdom.
Yeah. So tell me again, what did I say that was inaccurate?
6 concerts in 6 months. For your
Jake,
boys.
you're trying to make them into like a one-hit wonder. Are one-hit wonders still touring globally?
Okay.
25 years later?
Okay.
Like, is the dude that did Sunglasses at Night still playing in Nordic countries
Corey Hart?
and all over the world?
He had more than one hit.
Okay. I don't think so.
Yeah, he did.
So, Bailey and Wood Financial Group is not a one-hit wonder. There are many, many hit wonder. They are the best financial mortgage people that you can get in town, in the state. Even if you're in Florida, they have some branch locations there, but I believe 18 branch locations in Indiana.
I'm going to see what other shows are playing at Cain's Ballroom.
350-HOME, BAWFG.com for our friends at Bailey and Wood Financial Group. And Mike Wood was actually in Miami for their win over the Giants and rubbing elbows with Dan Marino. He was there with his buddy Mark Clayton, Indianapolis native, and took a couple of pictures with Marino. Really, really cool. And Mike goes down to Miami a lot, I know, for those games. And the Dolphins get back on the winning side of things by sticking the Giants into a trash can. Let's talk about Jacksonville in the next game.
Cain's Ballroom,
Colts.
upcoming schedules.
Okay,
Owl City,
yeah.
Teddy Swims.
Yeah.
Evan Altman likes
Owl
him.
City had a big hit.
John Waters,
Yep.
Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of all those.
Okay. Hooray for the Riff Raff with somebody.
I love Hooray for the Riff Raff.
Death from Above, 1979 with the Bomb Happy.
Yeah.
Death from Above might be a piano, actually, on a wire.
I mean, they could be Guns N' Roses and they could play stadium shows that are 25% full.
Okay.
They could do that. I mean, if you
Ray
want
Wiley
to,
Hubbard.
they could go play Toronto in front of 1,500 people,
Okay.
or be Oasis and play Deer Creek in front of 2K.
No. That was Noel Gallagher.
Okay.
By the way, Noel Gallagher is going to be playing at Amsterdam when I'm there.
Wow.
Or in Amsterdam when I'm there.
So he's actually still touring worldwide. That's
Yeah.
amazing because I think Hanson and Oasis would probably be on kind of the same level from that era of like big hits, big bands, rock music, cherished songs, all of that. They didn't have the infighting though. Those brothers have always loved each other, unlike the Gallagher brothers, because they don't love each other very much.
What did you say?
Let's talk about Jacksonville. So they've lost 8 straight down there. I think it was really important, Jake, to get over the hump against Tennessee, but it's not just that they won, it's how they won. They out-physicaled them. They out-toughed them. Down the stretch, They made the plays when they absolutely had to. You mentioned the Franklin and DeForest Buckner. I want to give him credit for that play too. Zach Moss and what he was able to do. Gardner Minshew just kind of gritting it out. And normally I kind of roll my eyes at that stuff and say, okay, yeah, gritty, they're tough, whatever. But clearly it matters to Irsay. And I think it really irked him that in these last 5 games and really over the better part of the last 4 seasons, Tennessee punched the Colts in the mouth and the Colts were too weak to punch him back.
Right.
And I think that stuck with Irsay, and I think it stuck with Colts fans.
No, I'll give the Colts credit because the Titans game, they beat the Titans at their own game.
Yeah. And now the next bugaboo, the next schneid for them to get off of is this weird losing streak in Jacksonville. There's a London game that's mixed in there, but essentially in the last 9 years, they've gone down there and lost 8 times. And a lot of those games have not been close. Last year's game was not close. The 21 finale was not close. The game that started this streak, remember Matt Hasselbeck started and they lost 51-16? They lost to Cody Kessler 6-0. The weirdest Colts game in my almost 15 years of covering the Colts, where I've been like credentialed or doing this for a living. That's the weirdest game. Colts were in the middle of a long winning streak. It was their only loss in a 10-game stretch at the end of the 2018 season, and they went to Jacksonville and they got shut out and they lost 6-0 against Cody Kessler and a terrible Jaguars team. And it's just one of those things. You need to get over the hump against them. You know, people want the Colts to return to where they were in the peak of the Peyton era. But I think to get there first, you have to take the steps towards reclaiming this division. You know, there's some people on my timeline that are like, the division doesn't matter and winning the AFC South matters. No, it matters. It matters because that's the first indication that you're back to contention again. And there's really no reason, Jake, that you shouldn't be able to beat these franchises more often than not because they're asking to be beat. No one has taken this division by the throat since the Colts
and we thought Jacksonville was going to, right?
Yeah.
And
but we thought Houston was going to. We thought Tennessee was going to. We've thought everyone was going to in this interim period here from when this streak started. I mean, this streak started at the same time that the Colts lost control of the division.
Do you remember the guy?
And they've never regained it.
Do you remember the guy on our show when we did the radio show and they were coming out of the draft respectively? Do you remember the guy that like almost wanted to fight me and carried it on for like a year, insistent, wanted to wager me 1,000 different wagers that Jacob Eason was going to be a better pro quarterback than Trevor Lawrence? Do you remember that?
No.
He called
that
in
really
the show
happened?
he called in the show like 3 times.
Jacob Eason was going to be better than Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
I remember people digging in and thinking that Eason was going to be really good.
And a lot of people thought Lawrence was going to be a bust.
Yeah, there were some people that felt that way. And he struggled early on, and they came out of the
He still has not been consistent, right?
You can see it. I mean, he made some throws in that Buffalo game. Where it's just like, sheesh.
You think he's the guy?
What do you mean?
I mean, do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to be you think he's a 10-year quarterback in the NFL?
Oh God, yeah. It's not that I think that. It's a guarantee. Trevor Lawrence absolutely will have a 12, 15-year, barring injury or something, NFL career.
Right.
No question. And be a productive, really good starter. What I'm still trying to determine with Trevor Lawrence is he going to be Peyton Manning or is he going to be Matthew Stafford?
Right.
Because I feel pretty confident he can be the latter. As the years go by, you're starting to feel like, maybe like elite level Hall of Fame player is not in the cards for him.
Okay, 25 years from now, which player's end of career season with the Colts will be more of a forgotten, like, holy cow, I totally forgot that trivia question? Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan?
I mean, in defense of Rivers, Matt Ryan is probably more memorable just because it was such a train wreck. But Rivers really had a very, very good season.
He did, but it was also the COVID year, right?
Yeah, it's just everything about that year was weird. It's just not remembered the way that it should be. I think maybe if the Colts won that playoff game in Buffalo, you might be having a different conversation. But remember they had that comeback win against the Packers, which was great.
I mean, he was a good player.
And they won in overtime. He had a great season, and the Colts were fun that year. But it was just this random sort of one-off. It's like the girl that you date for 6 months and you remember, hey, we went to a bunch of concerts and we traveled a little bit, we had a bunch of fun, and then, she took a job somewhere and I went somewhere and we were just like, hey, let's keep in touch or whatever, and then you didn't keep in touch with her anymore.
Right.
Like that. That's how I feel. That might be like the worst analogy ever, but that's how I feel.
Did you have a lot of girls
Phillip
like that?
Rivers. I had a lot of girls just in general, so kind of all across the board.
Mostly that you never kept in touch with?
There were a lot that were mutual, where we just decided, I'm not feeling it, you're not feeling it. Or I was pretty career-driven, so that was hard for some.
That I can
to stay on with.
I mean, I certainly understand that, yeah.
Yeah. So
Derek, I had a
didn't
lot
have
of
time for
girls in
everybody.
general, it says. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you, Derek. We don't talk about it a lot on here.
By the way, I didn't mean had I guess that technically is true depending on what your scale is, but I meant in my life.
You had a lot of first dates, yeah. We don't talk about it on here, and I don't necessarily want to get into it, but I did okay.
Later in life. Later in life.
Okay. By the way, it's time for Love That Play, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number for Love Heating and Air Conditioning. This time of year right now, important to maybe get your furnace looked at, get it checked, make sure that you are up and running. That's one of the services provided by Love Heating and Air, and a 24-hour on-call maintenance. Again, over 100 years of business in Central Indiana, and you last that long, 4 generations deep of a family business with great product, knowledge of product, and, of course, a commitment to the customer service. You get all of that with Love Heating and Air, who I've known essentially my entire life, and I would not steer you folks wrong. 317-353-2141. Derek, I don't know which one you had. My Love That Play takes us to college football, but I will let you give yours first.
Is it Georgia Tech?
Yes.
Hilarious. And what's so cool, how about this? I have a different Love That Play. But both of our Love That Plays are something that I don't think I've ever seen before. Have you ever seen that? But I mean, obviously, the Miracle at the Meadowlands, right, with the Eagles and the Giants. So there is precedent, at least for that. But in my lifetime, I've never seen a team just willfully decide to not take a knee. And
Miami's coaches, it's happened before.
He doesn't take knees.
So for those that are unfamiliar, on Saturday between Georgia Tech and Miami, who there were a lot of expectations about the Hurricanes this year and kind of this rebuild of their program.
And then they fall on their face.
Playing Georgia Tech, the game is in the bag, 34 seconds to go. They literally need to take a knee.
No timeouts for Georgia Tech.
No timeouts for Georgia Tech. Miami, instead of taking a knee and running the clock out to win the game, runs the ball up the middle. Georgia Tech gets a fumble recovery. The running back gets stripped. Georgia Tech gets the ball, and then
3 plays.
The final play of the game, and it wasn't even a Hail Mary, a beautifully executed pass play for a touchdown.
Who got completely behind the defense. How is that even possible? That Georgia Tech player, I don't even know who the receiver was. He was running 7 yards behind.
And Georgia
Miami
Tech's not
secondary.
very good, right?
Georgia Tech stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting better, but that program has gone in the gutter the last couple of years. But Miami, we do this every year. Miami's in the top 20 every year, and they never finish there. It's just like, oh, yeah, Miami's got dudes. Okay, cool. They don't do anything with them. We do this every year with Miami, I feel like. Miami is the new, Notre Dame, certainly during the Davey, Willingham, Weiss years, we did that with. We did that with FSU for a long time.
Yeah.
The late Bowden years and then into it, we're like, oh, yeah, FSU's preseason number 7, and then they finished 7-5. But Miami's that new team.
So who's your Love That Play?
Michael Harris ran down a 9th inning ball against the wall.
Paul the mailman was there at the game.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Wow.
He's a diehard Braves fan. Went to the game, texted me immediately afterwards and said it was worth every single mile.
Threw it all the way back in, and then I don't even remember the player that picked up the relay throw, which went errant, and threw it to first to double up Bryce Harper. It was an 8-5-3 double play. It has never happened in any Major League postseason game at any time. But it was essentially a walk-off double play, which is pretty cool. The Braves trailed throughout the game. They only had 4 hits.
Kept the Braves alive, right?
Yeah, they would have gone down 2-0, but yes. I mean, you drop in the first 2 games.
I thought they were down 2-0. Okay.
They were down 1-0. Yeah, this was game 2. But it's just cool. Baseball still gives you the chance every time that you're there to see something that no one's ever seen before.
I'm worried, Derek, because I'm not like some diehard fan, but I really would like to see. I'm going to be in Baltimore a week from this weekend.
Yeah.
And I really want the Orioles to still be alive, and I don't know, man.
This is what people wanted. So if this is what if you guys want the 84-win Diamondbacks to go to the World Series and potentially win, then great. Okay, expand the playoffs and let
May I ask a really dumb
17
question?
teams in there.
Can I ask a really dumb question?
Yeah.
We are in the divisional round, right?
Yeah.
These are best of 5?
Yeah.
Orioles are down 2-0, man.
I know. But baseball's random and weird. I don't know how much home field really matters in baseball compared
get
to
the last
some
at
other
bat.
sports. Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the way
I think if you play in a quirky park like the Red Sox at Fenway, I think home field matters.
How does Clayton Kershaw go out in his first outing and give up 15 runs before he gets his first
maybe
out?
he wasn't ready. I don't know, but it's the narrative that's just always going to follow him around. Unfortunately, it's this much of his career, but it does stink that it keeps. It's like Anthony Richardson and his injuries, right? Is there an explanation, or is it just crappy luck? I don't think Clayton Kershaw is lacking some postseason gene or some other nonsense. I just think he's been widely unlucky.
By the way, Derek, back to the college football real quick. To me, it's interesting because the college football playoff now, you have 5 or 6 teams that all seem to be kind of on a direct path in front of them, but there's a lot of cannibalization that's going to take place.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. 2 of those could get in maybe. USC barely survives and gets out against Arizona. USC is the one that it feels like if they were to trip up, they are immediately out. I don't think they're going to get a second chance. No. Washington and Oregon, though.
Here's what I'll say to that, though, Jake. If you go 12-1 and win the Pac-12, you're getting in the playoff this year. So if USC
that's what I said. If they lose one, yes,
yeah.
But there are other teams that could potentially.
I think they're
going
to lose twice. I think Ohio State's going to lose twice. I think Ohio State's going to lose to Penn State and Michigan.
Do you really?
Yes.
Now
I think Penn State and Michigan might get in the playoff together.
Oregon and Washington, could they both get now?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's the one on the fast
Louisville.
track now.
What if Louisville's TCU?
Oklahoma is the one on the fast path, Derek, because they beat Texas. Had Texas beaten Oklahoma, they were home free.
Yeah, they really were.
And they clearly got caught up in that. Oklahoma's got a couple of somewhat tough games left. You're right about Louisville. I mean, but is Louisville that good?
No, probably not. But I'm just saying you have to at least pay attention to them now because of their schedule's not great. Florida State is another one.
Florida State's got a pretty good path.
That's in that mix. And then, one loss Alabama would be somebody else.
Well, we haven't talked about Georgia.
That you still have to consider. Georgia's getting in. Georgia's going to get in. I think they can sleepwalk their way to the playoffs.
We got quick hits next.
Quick hits next, and Biter Bowl Bleep still to come. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Welcome back. Bailey & Wood Financial Group presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, alongside Jake Query.
Here, Derek.
I am Derek Schultz. Got a little kitty.
Oh, it's the best.
It's a Jaguar, to be right. Time for our IUPUI Jags report.
I really feel like it's real. Like, I look at it and I'm just like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, just like you do with Boo.
Oh, yeah, but Boo gets
there you go.
It's the best.
You ready? Let's see if I can fit this into 1 minute. The IUPUI volleyball team recorded their first Horizon League victory when they defeated Robert Morris 3-0 on
soccer,
Friday.
Derek.
Well, this is just they're running all of the sports. I'm going to talk about soccer here in a second. Brianna Brown led the Jag attack, 11 kills. Grace Perica set the Jags up for success with 31 assists. On Saturday, they rallied from an 0-2 hole to Youngstown State to beat the Penguins. Jags on the road this week at Wright State on Friday. Men's soccer dropped their first league game of the season, unfortunately, on Saturday, but they still sit atop the table in the league
now we're seeing
with
volleyball.
10 points and an opportunity to claim 3 more next Saturday against the Norse of NKU. IUPUI women's soccer celebrated senior day with a dub over Green Bay, 1-0. A goal in the 56th minute from senior Sam Slimak was the difference. Jags look to extend their unbeaten streak, hosting Oakland Thursday at 5. Last but not least, IUPUI swimming and diving beat the ever-living crap out of USI this weekend. Women win 149-93. Men win 193-44. And less than 1 month until baloncesto. Basketball. IUPUIJags.com/tickets. Spanish.
Listen, I love the thing that's great about IUPUI athletics, Derek. I mentioned this before. When I was a kid,
Can they hear him with the plush Jaguar? Okay,
yeah,
just making sure.
When I was a kid, my dad, it was a big deal to be able to go see college athletics.
Yeah,
and you got right here in town, affordable Division I college athletics. A lot of local kids playing from local high schools. Great chance to take your son or daughter down to watch a game, introduce them to the college life, see college athletics, and watch local products.
You met my buddy Stolman, right?
Yeah. Is that the guy that wanted to fight me?
No, that was Eric.
Okay.
One of my favorite, most cherished child memories was that Stolman, for some reason, his parents put season tickets in his name to Fairfield U basketball. And Fairfield U plays in the MAC, which is kind of like, it's lower level than the Horizon. But it's that,
it's Fairleigh Dickinson's
mid-major
league, right?
basketball. No, different league than Fairleigh Dickinson.
Okay.
It'd be like St. Peter's. That's
Okay.
the MAC. Manhattan,
MAAC.
Ryder, Niagara, Iona. That's that league.
Hofstra?
No.
Canisius?
I think Canisius, yes. Hofstra was American East, I think.
Okay.
If I remember right. But we used to go as kids, and it was college basketball. And one of those years when we were in 8th grade, Fairfield won the MAC and made the tournament, and they led at halftime against North Carolina. Serge Zwicker took over in the second half, and North Carolina outlasted Fairfield. But Fairfield, as a 16 seed, look it up, 1997 NCAA tournament, led North Carolina at half.
How about this?
And Stolman and I were ballistic. We were watching it in my living room, and it was crazy.
Fairfield also made the tournament in 1987.
Yeah, lost IU.
The mascot was a stag,
Yep.
and he had Air
Still
Jordans.
is.
Instead of hooves, he had Air Jordans on. They lost to Indiana 92-58 in the RCA Dome on March 15th of 1987 to start the 87 tournament.
weird.
And, Derek,
That's weird.
that's the day that Dr. Mottman was born.
Wow. That's weird that
I
you
don't
know
know if
the
I
date.
should give out his date of birth on the air, but I just did.
That's weird that you know the score and the date. The score's a little weird. The date is very weird.
I have the ticket stub still.
Yeah, it's very weird.
And when I had to fill out Mottman's information for the Speedway, I'm like, wait a minute.
That's the day that Indiana basketball beat Fairfield when I was 14.
Well, they beat Auburn 107-90
Okay.
2 days later.
That's weird.
And then they had to go to Cincinnati, and they beat Duke 88-82, and then they beat LSU 77-76. Then they went to New Orleans, and in New Orleans they beat Vegas 97-93 and Syracuse 74-73.
Allen Iverson, Marcus Camby, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, Ray Allen, Stephon Marbury.
Is this the
Antoine
96 draft?
Yeah. Remember we did this? We each have our thing, and yours is maybe 87 Indiana basketball. For some reason, mine's the 96 NBA draft. I don't know why, but it is. IUPUIJags.com/tickets, and we will let you know when single-game men's and women's hoops tickets go on sale. That's still days away, but it's coming because the season's November 6th, so we're less than a month away.
Crazy.
From the basketball season. Time for quick hits. Rest in peace to Terry Dissinger. 3-time All-American at Purdue, 3-time NBA All-Star. He was the Rookie of the Year. He was a 1960 Olympic gold medalist. He's really, Jake, one of the greatest Indiana basketball players whose name is not mentioned quite enough, I don't think.
Yeah, I would agree.
And maybe it's because he left the state afterwards, or
He was
I'm not sure.
MVP in the Indiana-Kentucky series as a high school player, probably should have been Mr. Basketball, an Olympian, and then just a dynamic scorer at Purdue and a big-time scorer in the NBA as well. Served in the military.
He played on a lot of bad teams. He played on some really bad Pistons teams, some bad Purdue teams. Probably that's part of the reason why he's not remembered as much. But I love the story that he told. We had him on the air for Catching Up With back in 2018. I went and looked it up, and I listened to the podcast last night. And he told the story of taping his ankles in the cab ride from West Lafayette to Chicago because he had an NBA game that night, and he had classes all day for his chem engineering degree at Purdue. Different time, right? Different era, for sure, that you would go through that. Taven Jackson remains the starter at IU despite being benched late in their blowout loss to Maryland. And the coordinator changed to Rod Carey. He's going to continue to start. Hoosiers are a 34.5-point underdog.
Highest paid coordinator in IU football history.
34.5 point.
You know what? Indiana going to stun the world, Derek.
Look, I know a lot of people had problems with that, and look, it might end up being a total disaster. I understand why Tom Allen did it, because if I'm Rod Carey, I'm saying to him, hey, you keep firing coordinators. So if I'm going to do this, you better take care of me here. And this takes care of it.
Indiana's going to go to Michigan and stun Michigan.
No, 0% chance. Zero. There is not a chance in the world. What's the money line on that game for Michigan? Minus 400,000?
Let's see.
If I put $1 on the Michigan money line, would I get 4 cents back? Is that too much?
We'll see.
Look it up right now.
I am. Hold
you
on.
have to go through all the coordinate.
I know. Hold on.
The security and all of that. I'm sure.
Okay, here we go. College football, Indiana, Michigan, right?
Yeah.
It'll take me a second to get to it.
Okay, we've only got 3 minutes left according to JD. So let's get to Chateau Kitchens and buy it or bold bleep.
It is off. There's no money line.
Of course not, because it's guaranteed money. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures, chateaukitchens.com.
It's down at 33.5, Derek.
Jake, buy it or bold bleep. Gardner Minshew will start more games for the Colts this season than Anthony Richardson. Buy it or bold bleep.
Start?
Yes.
No.
Because he's only technically started. Well, this will be his second start.
No. I will say that's Bullshultz. He will finish more, but he will not start more.
I wish that I could say that it was Bullshultz, but we just don't know, right? We don't know. I'll hope that it's Bullshultz. Or why am I saying Bullshultz? I don't even like that term. Bull bleep. See, you got me saying the wrong thing. I hope, but I'm not so sure. If the Pacers don't make the playoffs this year, the season's a failure. Buy it or bull bleep. I mean, all you have to be is top 10.
Yeah, I would say.
Right? I mean,
they got to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they have to.
They need to make the playoffs this year and then start winning in the playoffs next year.
They have to at least make the play-in round.
This is the coolest looking little Jaguar, by the way.
They have to at least make the play-in round.
What his little eyes look up at you? Watch.
Yeah. Aw. They're nice. They're like gold, like
right.
the
little
colors,
eyes look up at
or
you.
the old
just
colors,
hooked,
I guess,
right?
as well. I don't have a third one for buy it or bull bleep. Do you have something for me? Don't drive on wet leaves. Buy it or bull bleep. Buy it.
Hansen sucks. Buy it or Bullshultz.
No, think of something for real. I don't ask you for much on the show. Just think of something on the fly. You're usually pretty good at that. We have 1 minute to do it.
There will be 2 teams from the same conference in the college football playoff.
Buy it. I think it's either going to be Penn State and Michigan or Washington and
Okay, how about this?
Any of the Pac-12 teams.
There will be 3 or fewer losses represented in the college football playoff.
Bull bleep. Too much eating of each other.
Yeah.
I think the Pac-12 champ will have a loss. I think the Big Ten champ
I think there could be
could have a loss. I think Michigan's the best team in the country.
Do you really?
They're crushing everybody. They're not playing anybody.
They're not playing anybody.
But they're crushing everybody.
It all comes to an end this weekend.
On that note, thanks to all of our sponsors, Bailey & Wood Financial Group, Chili Water Brewing, and Hoagies and Hops at 42nd.
Tuesday, we'll talk about Indiana's shocking win in Ann
Chateau
Arbor.
Kitchens, IUPUI Jaguars Athletics, and our friends at Love Heating and Cooling. For Jake Query, I'm Derek Schultz. For Vince, for Greg, for JD, for everybody back there, we will see you next time here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Have a great week.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.